Hey everyone! In case you missed the big news last week, Culture Study is now on Patreon. We finally have a single home for both the newsletter and the podcast, so if you've been a paid subscriber, you should have received an email about migrating your membership to Patreon. If you're not a paid subscriber, well, now is the perfect time for you to become one. You can sign up for the podcast for just $5 a month, or you can bundle it with the newsletter for $8 a month. And if you're a paid subscriber already, just know that you do need to set up your special podcast feed that has the ad-free episodes and bonus content. Again, check your email for instructions there or reach out to us and we'll help. You can also find all of this info at patreon.com/culturestudy. So thank you so much for your support during this transition. It really means a lot to Melody and me. All right, on to today's show. This is the Culture Study Podcast, and I'm Anne Helen Peterson.
And I'm Audie Cornish. I am a journalist at CNN on their morning show and also an anchor for one of their podcasts, but also all the things because CNN is now streaming.
What do you like about Love is Blind?
I had to think about this a lot knowing we were going into this conversation. And I think what makes the show work, and there are a million things that do make it work, is it takes the entire arc of love as we know it and modern dating specifically and puts it on a TV production timeline.
Yeah.
Like The Bachelor or these other things, I don't know what the hell timeline that is in the multiverse. It's like roses, other people, helicopters, why?
Yeah.
This just goes straight with the like talk a lot, giddy, sexy time. Ruh-roh flags.
Reality.
Flags. Yeah. Living together. Meet the family. Oh my God, are we getting married? Like, it takes something that for a lot of people is at this point in the culture taking 10 to 15 years.
Yes.
And it brings that process down to like, what, 6 weeks?
Yes.
So that to me is like, that is what makes it different from other kinds of reality shows. It's the full arc.
And I will also say there's less of like the competition component that you get with a lot of other reality television.
Well, it's not built explicitly as a competition, although in the Love is Blind Reddit threads where I live part-time, someone said that at this point it's pretty much like pin the tail on the hot girl. Like the competition element is like this sense that there are some hot people on the other side of the wall.
Yeah.
And if I do the right things, I can get to that person. They're not actually the idea of being in it where you're like, I'm going to fall for someone. I'm not quite sure what they're going to look like and it won't matter. We're now in the part of the reality show, TV arc where we're now just dealing with like kind of semi-professionals.
Yes.
And so it's very different from the first season, which I'll talk about later.
So for people who have not seen the show, because we're going to try to make this accessible
to
people who have not seen the show, because it is a rich text. So even if you just know like what we're going to talk about now, it's going to lead you in a lot of interesting directions. But we also want to make this juicy for people who have seen the show.
No, there's a lot there. This show is, to me, a linchpin show in reality TV culture.
Yes.
For a variety of reasons, both on-set and off-set.
So can you explain the premise as concisely as you can?
Sure. The premise of Love is Blind is Netflix gets a variety of fitness instructors and people who are like Instagram baddies and men who just like, they actually have flags, like red flags, just like tucked into their pockets. And they put them in a very old-fashioned speed dating scenario for people who are Gen X and later. You recall speed dating, you all get in a room and you move from table to table talking to each other. So they do the equivalent of this for this modern phone-oriented generation by having them move from room to room, have conversations with someone they cannot see.
Yes.
And they call this dating, and they condense it into a period of just a few days. And through a combination of alcohol, sleep deprivation, and this speed dating process, over time, people reach a state of delusion that they do feel like they are falling in love with one of the people on their speed dates.
Yeah.
That's the first phase of the show. The second phase of the show is those people meet. they spend time together in a tropical location, and then more amusingly in an apartment building where they are like living essentially with a stranger. And leading up to the fact of the last chapter of the show, which is what people usually talk about, which is when people meet at the altar and make the decision about getting married in that moment in front of friends and family who have also signed up for what has become in some episodes a kind of ritual humiliation of everyone you know. Including your parents and other loved ones. So the point is the show has these sort of 3 phases. And so you can enter at any phase. And it's not like, to my mind, a Real Housewife situation, which to me at this point is basically the Marvel universe. Yeah. They're on phase 3. I've missed the first 21 movies. It's like I have a vague idea who's who, but I'm not committed enough. Love is Blind to me is much more you drop in.
Yes.
And drop out. You fast forward. I mean, it's the perfect dating show for the age of streaming and specifically 1.5 speed.
Yes. And I'll say that it is a perfect second screen show.
Amazingly.
In that, like, if you're scrolling your phone, but also I've watched it the past week while dividing Dahlia tubers. So like you could be quilting, you could be cooking, you could be doing anything. And it's just there. And like there's great recaps, like a lot of other things on Netflix. This is what Netflix is trying to be.
Yeah, which they're doing on purpose. But can I ask you a question? Why was Love is Blind in your cultural blind spot? Because there's so many. I'm the same way. There's some things that I'm like, I just don't even bother. And why for you was this in that space?
So I do not watch much television as a second screen. That's my general answer, because I totally understand like all of the like melodrama of the Bravo universe. Like I love celebrity gossip. All of this stuff would be catnip to me. But when I am doing a second screen activity, I'm usually listening to a podcast. Does that make sense? Like, so that is the thing
happily, yes.
So that is the thing that I'm doing if there's another input coming in.
Yeah.
And when I watch television, because I'm on my phone all the time, I put my phone in the other room so that I can really be concentrated. But
I also think maybe your reality television is TikTok, because when you and I spoke on my podcast, we were talking about Rush Talk.
Yes.
And you had a knowledge of Rush Talk that other people have about the Real Housewives.
Totally. No, 100%. So when that's why I also like only on specific times I'm like, okay, I'm watching TikTok.
Yeah.
But I think for me, reality television is too boring to put all of my focus on it.
Interesting. But only because you happen to treat television specifically as a one and only screen experience.
Yes. But so I have to tell you, when you told us that this is what you wanted to talk about on the pod, I was like, you know what? I will watch it, and it will be really interesting to watch it, to talk to you about it.
Yeah.
And also I think that this is a fascinating way for us to discuss the show as someone who has a long history with it and someone watching it for the first time. And I watched it with my partner, Charlie, who also had never seen it before. So there was a lot of
I wish I had told you just to watch season 1, because season 1 is like the President Obama of Love is Blind. It's like the version of the show as we thought we may be as a people.
Right.
And the way it is now is what we're living in now, like the same season of America.
Yes.
Where you're like, I'm not sure everyone here has good intent. Like it's a very, but that first season, like all reality shows, the first season of The Conceit.
Yes.
Is the most amazing, because nobody really knows what they're doing and why and how it's going to be cut and what it's going to look like. And Love is Blind to me at this point, it's like anyone who watches it for a first time, you actually should just start with season 1 and then like maybe never watch it again. When you start with season 1, you have this like the romance factor is very high, and you have like multiple weddings, and like if there's a runaway bride, it's a big like what is happening. And all these seasons later, it's kind of flipped. It's harder to make a match and easier to run away, which is a lot closer, I think, to dating reality. But the show is this weird it's a funhouse mirror specifically, I think, of modern dating culture. And the people who feel ground down by it.
Yes.
As much as it is a funhouse mirror of also how right now in the culture we talk about the role of a relationship in our lives.
Yes.
Because everyone on the show at some point says why they want to be in a relationship, why they don't think they are, what they think is getting in the way of that. It's very different from some of the other reality shows where they're just sort of leading with a vague sense of persona.
Yep. Yeah. And I'll also say that it's super interesting to watch as someone who is past the era of my 20s, because everyone, at least on this season that I watched, everyone is between the ages of around 25 to like 37.
Oh, yeah, for sure. They had like a 33-year-old on in like season 2, and the whole season was sort of like the theory of her case was like she was like a cougar. You know what I mean? And I was like, this is perfect for the porn generation, because to them, 30 is MILF status. You know what I mean? Like you cross some threshold there, which is insane when you look at the actual age of marriage in this country.
Absolutely.
Like, you're far more likely
Yes.
to be pairing off at that age than you are in your early 20s at this point in U.S. history.
Yes.
But again, it's another one of those weird, this is what it would look like through the Instagram reel mirror of culture.
So we're going to talk broadly about the show for the first part of the episode, and then if people want to really avoid spoilers, which Melody was trying to produce this show without spoilers.
I can do that. I just forgot.
No, but for
the
herself,
NPR in me still knows how to do that.
I was like, Melody, you're gonna get spoiled. But then in the last part of the show, we'll get into
Absolutely.
the spoilers.
Yeah.
Okay. So first question comes from Rachel, and it's a version of like the most popular question we received.
I'm wondering why Love is Blind only casts conventionally attractive people, particularly the women. It's always seemed paradoxical to me that the show intends to prove love is blind, but only under the conditions that a pretty person is behind the wall. It feels like a combination of upholding beauty standards and fat phobia, but it's also just so ridiculous to me considering the show's hypothesis.
That's true. No lies detected.
Yeah. I remember this being like a huge point of conversation during the first season, but it seems like this has been standard. And to me, I actually think it's a way that they are trying to make the show less about ritualistic humiliation. But in the end,
right, like they're trying to avoid a scenario.
Yes.
But it keeps happening.
It keeps happening.
You routinely have couples that really just don't come together after the reveal. This comes up about race quite a bit.
This season, especially, yeah.
Yeah, but in the past, like it's come up.
Yeah.
What I'll say is that this is going to sound mean-spirited. But the hotter they get, the more I feel like I'm allowed to put distance between me and them.
Yeah.
And I'm allowed to dehumanize them in a way.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, well, who cares? None of this is real. You know what I mean? I'm just like looking at veneers and eyelashes and tattoos, and they don't coalesce as a person.
Yeah.
And it's a little different from watching something like Love on the Spectrum, you know, which is people who like are on the autism spectrum and all that stuff. And people, you know, kind of consider that show like heartwarming and think of it very differently. And I do think it's not an accident that the pairings on Love is Blind over the years where people are more, air quotes, normal looking. And let me just say, they're still gorgeous people, right? I think people they become kind of fan favorites, like you're rooting for them. And whereas you're much more inclined to indulge your guilty pleasure instinct that lets you watch exploitation.
Yeah.
without wanting to write a white paper on it.
Yes. Yeah. There's a character. I see how I say character. Not
Exactly.
person.
There it is. Perfect.
There's a character in this season, season 9, named Casey, who I think they actually cast by reaching out to her on Instagram. Like, she's an influencer. She's incredibly, like, exactly what you think a blonde white lady influencer would look like. And there are parts of her conversations where she actually is, I think, trying to be pretty vulnerable about like how she's never known if anyone likes her apart from her looks. Like, but I also like I couldn't take her seriously.
Yeah,
because
100%.
you
And
know?
in the early seasons, there's a person who's like a scientist. There's like a couple where they're like, we're both really into wolves illustrations, and those people you're just like, I'm into it. Like, you
Totally.
go, girl,
Totally.
And there were these, what makes reality television work, even when you look through the history of reality television, the very earliest shows. There was one show, Black and White, I remember seeing, where housewives had to get up and basically tell sob stories in
Queen
order
for a
for
day.
the Queen for a day, and the audience had to be like, which of these moms deserves help and support?
Yeah.
And the things they were asking for now, you would just be like, what, in the Hunger Games? They were like, I need a babysitter for a week so I can have a surgery. Like,
Yeah.
I need a stove. And everybody was like, gah, 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 gah. It's like the Truman Show. Everyone was totally like laughing about it, and just, that was entertainment. And that this is our version of that. Sometimes you have people on the show, especially again early seasons. I remember there was one character who she got sort of turned down, and she just looks in the camera and she's like, I don't know, like, am I unlovable? Like, why can't I make this happen? And I just thought every single person watching has had that feeling.
Yeah.
Has absolutely had that feeling.
Yeah.
And of course now when you're watching an influencer just sort of be like, I don't know if this is the lifestyle I want to have. You don't have that. You're like, that's not, and it becomes, the stakes are way lower.
Yes.
But it allows you to enjoy it more.
Yeah.
And this is relevant because, I'm going to, like, this is public knowledge. There's a class action lawsuit against the makers of the show because people want to be recognized as employees. And this is why this show, to me, like I mentioned, it having implications inside and outside. It's a show that has been very revealing about both reality TV itself as well as us. So the original question, your person called in and said, why are they all hot? I think they're all hot so that we can feel less empathy for them.
Yeah.
I think that they get recruited. We hear them say things
Yes.
like, someone reached out to me on LinkedIn.
Yep.
And what results is that people who essentially are walking out of a job interview rather than having a transformative experience bound up in intimacy and vulnerability and love.
Today's episode is brought to you by ZocDoc. So, Melody, you watch a lot of TikTok.
I do.
What different health trends have you seen in your TikTok?
I mean, one very much related to what we talked about in today's episode, which is blending some boiled chicken with a packet of Crystal Light and then drinking it as a protein smoothie.
No.
Yeah.
It's disgusting. I've also seen like cottage cheese as the solution to every problem that you've ever
Everything.
had. I do really like cottage cheese, but it doesn't solve my problems for me. But here's the thing. We should not trust TikTok for our health concerns. Actual healthcare professionals can help you meet your health goals, whatever they are, or solve your health problems. And with ZocDoc, it's really easy to find one, especially if you've been putting it off. You can find doctors that are right for you and instantly book an appointment. It's a free app and website where you can search and compare high-quality in-network doctors and dentists and click to instantly book an appointment. There are over 100,000 doctors across every specialty: mental health, dental health, primary care, urgent care, all sorts of things. And you can filter for doctors who take your insurance, are located nearby, and are a good fit for whatever needs you might have. And once you find the right doctor, you can see their actual appointment openings, choose a time slot that works for you, and click to instantly book a visit. This is very helpful for anyone who has phone appointment anxiety, which used to be me, but is no longer. But I still have a lot of empathy for people like that. Appointments made through ZocDoc also happen fast, typically within just 24 to 72 hours of booking. More often than not, you can even see same-day appointments. So this is really good as we're approaching cold season. And every day I wake up and I think, is this allergies? Is this dog sleeping in my bed? Or did a child give this to me the last time I was around them and their parents? So stop putting off those doctor's appointments today and go to ZocDoc.com/culture to find and instantly book a top-rated doctor today. That's ZocDoc.com/culture. ZocDoc.com/culture. Today's episode is brought to you by Ollie. So Bev has been going through a little bit of a 3-year-old regression. Dogs have regressions just like babies and children do. And she just has been a little punk. She just wants to I don't know, like when I'm sitting at the counter, she wants to jump up on my back. Just put because she's as tall as me when she's fully extended. So if you haven't paid attention to her lately, she's like, "Oh, hi, can I put my claws on your back?" But even when I'm super annoyed with her, when I give her a little bit of Ollie on top of her food and just watch the incredible pleasure that she has in eating it, I'm like, "I love you, Bev, even with your regression." So Ollie is my dog's favorite. It's Polly's favorite. That's Melody's dog. It's every dog that I have ever allowed to try some when the dog is visiting our house for a dog play date. They also love it. Ollie offers fresh, protein packed meals made with real human grade ingredients, and they offer 5 different recipes, all slow cooked for top nutrition. Dogs love the taste. I can vouch for this 100 times over. Even your dog that is a picky eater or their appetite has waned since they've gotten older, this will reanimate their hunger. Ollie also has meal plans that are tailored specifically to meet your dog's needs, and they're perfectly portioned. Even if you have a tiny dog, you can take a bit of it and then put the rest instead of having an awkward open can in your fridge. You can put it in this really cute little Tupperware thing, and it stores away just really neatly. Your dog's well-being starts with their food, and that's why Ollie delivers fresh, human-grade food that your dog will love. Head to ollie.com/culture, tell them all about your dog, and use code CULTURE to get 60% off your welcome kit when you subscribe today. Plus, they offer a happiness guarantee on the first box, so if you're not completely satisfied, you'll get your money back. That's ollie.com/culture and enter code CULTURE to get 60% off your first box. So our next question is about the appeal, and this comes from Kristen.
Why can't I look away from the show? They don't show us deep conversations. The real connections and authentic intentions are few and far between. The editing and dragging out of storylines, it all makes me cringe. And also, I'm seated with my dinner every night new episodes drop. I consume arguably too much pop culture and media. I'm an avid reader. I go to the movies at least once a week. I know so much of this is built in a lab to appeal to us, but how do they hook us on this ridiculous show with the silliest and most inappropriate hosts, I must say, even as I have a sort of out-of-body experience as I binge it?
Yeah, I get it, girl. I'll say it is a little reality television in this particular kind of show. It's a kind of, I don't know if you've eaten something like a Cheeto or a Dorito or something that has that moment of tang, sweetness, bitterness, and melts kind of in your mouth.
Yeah.
And that's what it's like watching these shows is you're just like, what is this? This doesn't smell right. And then all of a sudden something happens on the show that really hits you because the person has become a proxy for a wider sentiment.
Yes.
So I'm just going to list one or two. I remember in the early seasons where one female character says to her partner, hey, you know how you say I'm the best sex you've ever had and I don't say it back? And I remember being like, watching through my fingers because everybody's been in a relationship where they're like, the bed chem, so to speak, as the kids say, is not there.
Yeah.
But all of a sudden you had that moment. There was another moment in later seasons where there was a character who had always talked about his trouble with commitment, his trouble staying faithful to women. And lo and behold, on his wedding day, air quotes, his dad shows up. Oh. And his dad had been a playboy in his era, had been unfaithful to his mother. And all of a sudden, the mom and the dad were there on the wedding day. And the mom was like, you were not good to me. You were not a good role model to him. And the doubts he's having on this day are the result of your behavior.
Whew.
And it was like this epic, people started writing about generational trauma on the message boards. It was this weird, you shook the gold thing.
Yeah.
And out of all the silt was this piece of gold.
Yeah.
Where suddenly I remember thinking, like, not only am I glad I saw this moment, I wish other people saw this moment. I wish other men saw this moment.
Yes.
Because what it does is put people on camera sometimes, and they engage in behaviors that they don't actually even realize are holding them back.
Yeah.
And so even though the show is called Love is Blind, I think the show is actually called like Love is Therapy. And and we all watch it because we're now, it's a proxy for conversations we wish we had, we wanted to have, we should have had with ourselves. And every once in a while that kind of jumps out, you know, and you can be really struck by it.
This goes back to what we were talking about before, the perspective of watching it in my old age of 44, and just like recognizing there's this character on the current season named Joe who is like every dude in their 20s who like is interested in dating but like not really interested in dating. And then you have like a woman who is on a different timeline, has different asks for commitment, is not receiving them and has never received them from this person, but is desperate to receive them.
Yeah.
And then it just goes back and forth and back and forth. You're not giving me what I need. And they're like, I don't know what to say to you. Like,
right.
You can stay, you can go. I don't fucking care, you know?
And like part of me is like, is it better that that's happening in 8 days instead of 8 years?
Right.
There are plenty of people who are in that kind of relationship way longer, and the same thing happens to them, which is, you know, in a way, just I'm going to apply this here, sunken cost fallacy, where it's like, I've put in so much time, effort, all the things to make this work, and I need to make it work. And you can't do it by yourself. Right. Yeah. And, you know, one caveat, I should say, you and I are the same. I also got married before the smartphone. You know what I mean? We had Palm Pilots. Like, it was Craigslist and Friendster. Like, I got married young.
Yeah.
And actually, I do wonder in some ways if that's also the appeal of the show for me, because they're forced into the world in which I dated, which is like without digital interference.
You just talk to people.
You just talked and talked and talked and talked.
Like you met a friend of a friend, or like someone who, like some odd connection, like, oh, we went to the same school for a year or something like that. And
yes. And that was the basis to like have further conversation. You might be seeing other people. This idea that you can like be in a virtual relationship, flirting for a long time, letting that peter out. It's like our version of that, it wasn't quite the same. Yeah. It still had its own pitfalls. I'm not one of these people that's like romanticizes meeting in the grocery store or whatever. No. It had its own anxieties. But this kind of emotional breadcrumbing that you can do left and right that really just leaves you in the end with crumbs was not what we lived with. And so maybe in some ways I'm like, and maybe this other person is connecting to the thing of the stuff of life that is really rich, which is like personal connection, interaction, rejection, the stuff Shakespeare writes about, right? But that stuff happens face to face. It doesn't happen when someone just walks away from their phone chat with you and never comes back.
You know, one thing I've been thinking a lot about reading the discourse on Reddit and other places, especially about this season.
Welcome to our community, by the way.
Is not only, and I also have to shout out a culture study listener named Jean, who made a whole dossier for us, like basically summarizing all of her learnings from Reddit.
Please
over the
share
course of,
after. I'm obsessed.
And she has also watched all of the international versions. So like, pointed out all of these interesting differences. Amazing. But people seem not to like season 9 as much, and not because of what the outcomes were necessarily, but the thing I've seen again and again is this time it seems like there are so many people who just very obviously needed therapy, and for some reason that threw them out of the enjoyment of the show.
Yeah, because remember what I said about dehumanization.
Yeah.
It's very hard for me to be dismissive of the ridiculous things you do if I'm watching it, and I honestly have learned so much about your biography that I'm actually concerned about your mental health. And repeatedly people raise questions like that. Maybe you'll go into this now. I don't want to do spoilers, but yes, that can pull you out of the story, so to speak.
Yes. Like I'm like, oh my gosh, like this is a really hard time for you. and you've been through a lot in your life, and like you need to process that before, like you need to love yourself before you can
I
ask
mean,
someone to
without
love you.
spoilers, let's just give some examples.
Yeah.
There's somebody who has a child on the show. There's a single father. And I think everyone has been like, well, wait a second. These aren't the stakes I signed up for. And there's a great deal of watchers out there who are single parents, who are co-parenting. They know that life viscerally. And immediately it kind of took folks out of the story. They couldn't feel like it was a fairy tale because they just were like, what are you doing on the show? Why did they cast you? This isn't cool. And the kid was under the age of 10. There's another person who grew up in foster care. And, you know, he's like slowly pairing up with somebody who like is a social worker, I think. And it's one of those things where you're like, in real life, maybe somehow you wouldn't notice that you were doing this. But to all the armchair psychologists who have PhDs in therapy speak online, they're like, girl, what? Like, this is not a pairing. This is a case.
And also that, this would be a good friend for you.
Just everything about it. Again, it took you out of the story. Because then also when you saw behaviors that felt like extreme or out of line, you did not interpret them as simply being a bad edit, a villain edit, or a bad cut, or alcohol. Yeah. You actually had these other nuggets of information that turned it into beyond red flags. It turned it into, this is actually irresponsible to put someone in this position. And even though none of us seem to, you know, rise up and raise our fists for the reality worker union that Bethany Frankel and others have talked about there should be, we actually do have feelings about the casting.
Yes.
That is like, I think, culturally a thing that's developed over time.
Yes.
It's a real understanding of casting and like what's air quotes right and not right. The
and
audience
ethical.
has
ethical.
Great word.
Okay, this goes back to something you brought up earlier about how season 1 is the Barack Obama of seasons. So let's hear this question from Joy.
I have a theory that all good reality TV, excluding game shows like Survivor, can only really have 2 to 3 really good seasons where the premise is original and the cast doesn't know what's going on. The first seasons felt way more genuine and experimental than it does now. So why is that? Is it due to the casting or the nature of reality stardom? How, if there is a blueprint for what does and doesn't work on the show, do people continue to stick their foot in their mouth on television?
Okay, so that last question one baffles me a little bit, but then also I'm just like, people say stupid shit on air all the time, as you know.
Yeah. But the reality TV show culture is different, I would say, in that these are people who, and this is interesting time to talk about this, MTV is like going through it right now, and they, in a lot of ways, we owe a lot to them. The people who have grown up with reality television in this way, which is all of us at this point, they bought the ticket, so to speak.
Yep.
You know, they understand humiliation is part of it. You have kids on TikTok joking about being the main character or villain edits. Like, we're actually wildly now versed in reality show language.
Yep.
So a lot of the people who want to do it is a platform to them towards what they hope to be their professional persona, which in this day and age is fully commodified. You can be paid to be yourself.
Yeah.
But the only way to do that is through extreme exposure at the levels that some of these people want to do it. And so even on, I think it was The Golden Bachelor, it might have been this most recent season where there was a little kerfuffle where all the ladies in the house were like, oh my God, she just wants to be a fitness influencer and I'm here for love. My husband died 20 years ago. And I was like, oh my God, nowhere is safe. Like, the influencer is a disease and it cannot be contained.
Well, and like, it's such an old discourse of like, not in it for the right reason, not here for the right reasons, right? Like, just like,
they all use this language now.
Yes.
I'm not here to make friends.
Yes.
Is another one. I'm here to speak my
Survivor.
Truth. Is another one. Love is Blind is particularly filled with propaganda. And Nick and Vanessa Lachey. I'm like the pop star and the other one because I don't learn anyone's
Jessica
names.
Simpson's ex
Sure,
husband.
exactly. Which is hilarious given his role in reality show history, right? Talk about a persona, that Jessica Simpson was like, in a way, actually undone by her public persona developed through reality television.
Yeah.
But they are constantly babbling a bunch of jargon about love and is it blind and your truth and how did you feel about this. And it's funny, the show is oddly, they use the vocabulary of extremely emotionally intelligent and emotionally aware people and discourse with contestants who are deeply not those things.
I know. Oh my gosh.
Or have been so compromised they actually can't execute those skills because they're holding that golden goblet that they literally have to make opaque so you can't see how much they're drinking in the edits.
Yeah.
So there's a real kind of like disconnect between this lofty language, and this gets at an earlier question about the looks issue. Why do they make such a big deal out of that? And then everyone's hot. Like literally, what's the point?
Yeah.
And it's because the propaganda of it is also part of this thing of making you feel like there's a story here and not really a kind of like manipulation.
Yeah. Well, and I think about this, I love Joey's question because it points to something that I think is like foundational to reality television, like this current iteration, is that once people have watched how to perform on the show, how to successfully perform on the show, and then those people apply and go on the show, it becomes a different entity.
Yeah. And you can't unring the bell.
You can't.
Yeah. People may not realize this, but like if you think about a show like The Real World, the very first Real World season, people are doing their confessionals in all kinds of weird places because MTV didn't have any money. And they literally are like wearing dark glasses and scarves. Like they are so weirded out by speaking on camera like that in public. They're kind of like, oh my God, okay, fine, 3, 2, 1. Like they're not in it for that. They don't really know it. And then, of course, by the time you get to like real world Seattle and you have someone like slapping someone else and like there's all this other kind of performance going on, or the fact that MTV had to generate new scenarios to throw the same mix of people together, you know, of like, it's Road Rules, it's Mad Max, it's a Penthouse. Like they had to gin up new scenarios to get the feeling that the inquiry was in that question of like, how do you make it feel like season 1 and season 2 of anything? How do you keep creating that season 1, season 2 experience when you're on season 25?
Yeah.
One thing I'll say I watched this season and then every once in a while I do this. I went back to look at the first season because I'm a little bit like, why do I like this? Right. You're just sort of cherry picking through. And the people in the first season, they were genuinely interesting. And in later seasons, there are people who are genuinely interesting. They come from different kinds of families. They come from different kinds of socioeconomic backgrounds. I remember once there was a character who, like, when the couple got together and they finally lived together, she had to admit that she had, like, no money, no job, and, like, a totally run-up credit card from Sephora.
Yeah.
And I was like, girl, same, like, felt like very relatable content. And you're right, this season, and this turned off a lot of people, there was a very generic blandness to the point of like, the sound could be off, really.
Right.
Truly, the sound could be off. And there's one character who, I don't want to pick anyone out, but I will, who was like, my friends call me Sparkle Megan. And I was like, okay, you know what I mean? Like, there's nothing sparkly about you. Like, I don't actually understand. Like, do you wear sequins when no one's looking? It was just almost like that thing in junior high when you say you have a personality trait. You know what I mean? And that's supposed to sub for an actual personality. Yeah. And in the end, she had a very compelling story and all this stuff. But yeah, that sort of thing where they all feel like, okay, I got to perform a version of myself. What is it about me? What is it about me? And I kind of make something up, especially for the women. It seems like there's a real pressure on them to do that. Whereas the men are very like, some of them, they look dazed and confused going through this thing.
And no, for sure. And like, this season was supposedly based in Denver, and it felt so.
I love how you don't even believe it's in the city it's in.
But it's like it was
allegedly.
it was so placeless in so
Yes.
many ways, right? And most people, many people like Sparkle Megan were not actually from Denver. She's like, I'm
Exactly.
considering a move back to Denver, or I'm a travel nurse in Denver.
I love you, Aunt Helen. You're like, you don't even go here. Like, yeah. No, you're right. There was no regional difference. They went to try on cowboy hats, and I remember being like, oh, is this set in Austin? Like, I couldn't remember what was the point.
The only moment that felt Colorado to me is the character that I called the sociopath said at one
which
point,
one? Literally, I don't know which one that could
said
be.
at one point that when he gets on a chairlift with someone, that he takes out his mixer and starts mixing martinis for people on the chairlift.
Is that the same person who put a chicken in a NutriBullet and like made a smoothie?
It's the one who's like super anti-gay and Christian.
Oh,
That
again,
guy.
which one? Like last season was the political one. That was the season where it sort of was the funhouse mirror of our post-pandemic, post-awakening politics, where you had a lot of women who were like, these are my politics. I'd like to talk about them because you're going to be my partner. And men who were like, I'm more conservative than that, or I'm more Christian than that, or I don't feel the same way about these issues. And those were the things that kind of revealed themselves. Like this season didn't even have that.
Yeah.
And I think, I don't know how long these things can go. You can tell it's getting bigger and better, like because they have weird cameos. The needle drops are more expensive. Like obviously the show's doing okay, but yes, I think the fans are making it pretty clear that it's not giving them even the basics anymore of what they want.
I could tell that they had more money because, like, most of the time the music beneath is like, it sounds like praise music to me, like it's just like melodrama praise music.
It's the music you commission to sound like songs you can't afford.
Yes. But then
this season it was like, oh, we're just playing Man-Child by Sabrina Carpenter. Like we're just going to spend that money for a very minor joke.
Exactly.
You can feel the cash flow.
Today's episode is sponsored by ZBiotics Pre-Alcohol. Melody, aren't you going on a little trip this weekend?
I am. I'm going on a work trip, and there is a sponsored happy hour after the event.
So maybe you will have more than one drink.
Maybe, if I pack my ZBiotics.
Yeah.
Because I have to get up early the next day and edit.
Yes. So this is perfect, actually. So you just take the ZBiotics Pre-Alcohol before you take your first drink. And then if you have more than one drink, if you have two drinks, if you have to wake up the next morning to edit an episode, you're going to feel good. So ZBiotics Pre-Alcohol Probiotic Drink is the first genetically engineered probiotic. It was invented by scientists to tackle rough mornings after drinking, and here's how it works. When you drink, alcohol gets converted into a toxic byproduct in the gut. It's a buildup of this byproduct, not dehydration, that's to blame for rough days after drinking. Pre-alcohol produces an enzyme to break this byproduct down. So just remember to make pre-alcohol your first drink of the night, Melody. Drink responsibly, and you'll feel your best tomorrow.
And this is actually super helpful that we're talking about this because the bottles are very, very small. Like
Totally.
It's just a tiny little sip, and I can put one of those in my toiletry kit and feel great Saturday morning.
Perfect. Go to zbiotics.com/culture-study to learn more and get 15% off your first order when you use Culture Study at checkout. ZBiotics is backed with a 100% money-back guarantee, so if you're unsatisfied for any reason, they'll refund your money, no questions asked. Remember to head to zbiotics.com/culture-study and use the code CULTURESTUDY at checkout for 15% off. The Culture Study podcast is sponsored by Blissy. It's my favorite time of year for sleeping because right now I get to open the window fully and the cool air comes in. It's right about like 42 degrees and it makes the pillows feel so cool. But you know which pillow feels the coolest? My Blissy Silk pillow. Because it cools it down and it has that incredible soft feeling. And I also love using it because it It keeps my face looking better because it like harbors less bacteria because it's silk. It makes my hair look better again because it's silk instead of like gross cotton. When you start using your Blissy pillowcase, you can see healthier skin and hair in just weeks. And it's better than satin because satin is made from synthetics, which is rough on hair and skin. There's a reason that satin is cheap. Your Blissy pillowcase also eliminates frizz and preserves hairstyles and protects color-treated hair, like mine. There are over 99 colors available, and it's super easy to care for. I just throw it in the wash.
And it also makes a great gift. I think this is particularly useful for perhaps a mother-in-law or somebody who has everything and you're like, what could I possibly get them that they haven't already gotten themselves? I don't think many people are going to think, unless they listen to this podcast, are going to think to get a silk pillowcase. But I think you will be a hit if you get one.
Yes. It's also now available at Target, so even easier to get your hands on it. Because you're a listener to the Culture Study podcast, Blissy is offering 60 nights risk-free plus an additional 30% off when you shop at blissy.com/culturepod. That's BLISSY.com/culturepod and use the code culturepod to get an additional 30% off. Your hair and skin will thank you. Okay, this gets into the politics. This question comes from Cheryl.
Is anyone else completely flabbergasted by all the gender roles talk in season 9? I honestly felt like this season was straight out of the early 2000s, and the same goes for the LGBTQ question that Nick asks Annie. I was shocked that Netflix aired that.
Yeah.
I was not shocked that Netflix aired that.
Me neither.
We will...
Have you heard the new Taylor Swift? Yeah, it's a vibe shift out there.
Okay, let's play a couple of clips to get a feel for this. So the first is this conversation between Sparkle Megan and a guy named Mike, and it happened within like 20 minutes of the first episode.
I'm definitely like a perfectionist, very like type A.
So if I like leave a bunch of dirty dishes out on the island or the counter, are you gonna be mad at me?
It would annoy me for sure,
Yeah.
but I kind of believe in like more traditional gender roles.
Okay.
I'm not saying leave all your fucking dirty dishes out.
I support that.
And then this part is between the aforementioned sociopath, at least that's what I call him. That's not, obviously his name, Nick, and his eventual fiance, Annie.
How would you react if at some point your child told you they were LGBTQ+?
Like, no matter what, I'm always going to love my kids. But, like, I can't tell you I would be the first person to be like, yay! You know what I mean?
I do know exactly what you mean.
Like, I'll support my kids, but making sure that they're, like, informed. Like, do you know what you're doing? Like, do you know what you're getting into? Like, do you know what you're signing up for?
Do you feel like it's a fad or something
100%.
that's like, you're like, oh, my friend told me I might be this, and like,
it's
Shanice said that she's this, so I think I'm this.
So we talked about this a little bit, but what did you make of the conservative vibes this season?
I think, as I said, funhouse mirror of our politics. I think that absolutely in the broader culture, when you think of the movement of Gen Z men, not just to conservatism, but say to Catholicism, and not just Catholicism, but like Romanism.
Yeah.
You could hear these women reconciling with these instincts of what's expected of them and what they think will get them a partner.
Yeah.
Right.
God.
So you have somebody who's like a nurse pursuing further degrees who's like, but I also want to take care of my husband, and it's like, okay, girl, you can, but I don't know if you've checked the hours for nursing. That's it's not the homemaker gig.
when they get out of the pods and into real life, they completely fall apart because you can say that
they aren't real about it.
Yeah.
Right. These people who are like, oh, I want to be very traditional, and that first of all, traditional doesn't mean doing the dishes. It's just a household chore. Chill, folks. Mm-hmm. But there's all of this very strange dialogue where they're trying, to me, again, to show I have a vision of what the perfect, because again, all these people are obsessed with perfection. I have a vision of what the perfect partner would be, the perfect partnership would be, and I can be the ideal partner. And I'm trying to perform for the cameras that perfectness. And so these are the things, the keywords I think make sense. Yep. These are the things that will get me that halo.
Yep.
And of course, none of it works because they don't live that way in their real lives at all.
Yeah.
Right.
No, and
they don't actually live the lives they're pretending that they want.
All of the women have jobs, right? Like one of them's a salon owner, right?
Yeah,
Not
exactly.
just like someone who like. So there's that, and I think it's that incredible difficulty of reconciling, like, okay, so here I have to have this life in order to be interesting enough to be cast on the show, but also the show is, like, the status quo of the show is this incredibly regressive and inherently, like, conservative understanding of, like, the relationship
But there's
escalator.
also a backlash to the progressive feminism that people have experienced of the last 10 years. I mean, it also really was also a conversation about feminism itself and its role in society in dictating social etiquette, mores, and presenting a new ideal that under the current cultural regime has been deemed false.
Mm-hmm.
The thing you all said, right? The like Taylor Swift with the cat is a billionaire, is single, is living her best life. Like, guess what? In the end, she wanted to make babies with a football player.
Mm-hmm.
Guess what? All of these women, they want to be in committed relationships. The things that were presented to them by Western culture as fulfilling is a lie. Yeah. And it's happening at the same time where economically, it's an S show, right? Economically, for young women, for parents specifically, economically, these partnerships are difficult to have. Like financially, you're not able to make the math work. Yep. So you see these people in real time wrestling all those different cultural notions at once. And this is what I mean. It's a little bit like, is the show bad? Yeah. But
no, but this is why it's a rich text, right?
Yeah, but like ideas kind of escape from it. And each season they reveal themselves. Mm-hmm. And I think that the season where the politics seeped out was one. And the season of this kind of trying to show who can show they're the most traditional woman. Mm-hmm. And then for win a man, which in the end, all of the men are like basically feckless. And I don't mean that disrespectfully, but like none of them are actually ready to partner. They're pretty plain about that. Yep. They're all trying to be an ideal while these men aren't actually even trying for any ideal whatsoever. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And it feels like such a mismatch and such a reflection of where things are right now.
I will say some of the men, and I'm remembering this just like from a couple conversations I heard like over the last couple days, would say things in the pods like, I believe in partnership, like just some of that, like the conversation that you're supposed to have around like, yeah, like we can both work and we can figure out like what's happening in our lives, right? And I think that's like that acknowledgement that 2 incomes is the way to survive in most scenarios.
You know, I didn't see it that way. I saw it as more as like, you know how there's a world of people who when the check comes at the end of the date, the woman is supposed to pretend to reach for the check, but the man's actually supposed to take it. Totally. That's how it came off to me. The men were like, I really want a partnership. Yeah. And then the woman would be like, well, I actually don't. I think it would be better if I did more things in the house. And they'd be like, oh, really? Oh,
no.
Well, I mean, I guess I am into that.
It's so refreshing to hear
Yeah, this is like really cool. And I was just like,
One of them definitely said, I think it was Sociopath Nick, who said like, it's so refreshing to hear you say that.
You can't keep calling that. You can't keep calling it.
Just gonna I'm gonna get like just dinged for
Sociopath.
But one of the first papers I ever wrote in grad school was about how Laguna Beach, this is when Laguna Beach
This is why you're my favorite writer. Oh my God.
Laguna Beach was a melodrama, like a very old school melodrama. And we're talking about everything from the way that they actually use sounds to communicate what cannot be communicated. And this is all over the place in reality television now. But also the way that it was trying to make different ideas that were being hashed out, that were complicated, that were not easy to reconcile. Like ideologies that are not easy to reconcile, which all of the things you've just delineated. Like, how do we make the reality of what makes life survivable in the United States economically reconcilable with, like, these traditional mores? Like, how does a woman do all of the things?
And with people who have very limited vocabulary. Like, just, I'm going to be honest with you, Laguna Beach was one of the defining aspects of that show to me.
11th grade, right?
Yeah, it's like they're teenagers and they're just kind of like, yeah. Huh?
I know.
Yeah. You know what I was like?
And I will say that there is a component, like some of the characters on Love is Blind are not much better.
No,
They're certainly
absolutely not.
They don't have the emotional intelligence to say things other than, I love you so much. I just love you so much.
But have you noticed, though, they're still, again, because of the internet, well versed in the language of emotional intelligence that they don't have.
Yes.
So you can have someone who you can call sociopathic, and that same person will be like, I just want to take accountability.
Yeah.
Because, I really just need to own it. I need to
I love bombed you. I love bombed you.
I love bombed you. They use all the terms that people have been using for the last 5 years in their like Psychology Today articles about how to identify a narcissist, and without identifying their narcissist at all.
Yes.
So it's this strange thing where they've got the costume on, but there's not anything there. There's still something to their usage of it, because it's helped me understand, like, oh, this is how people expect to be spoken to these days.
Yeah. No, this is so smart. Like, and something that I don't think, having just watched the one season of the show as I did, that I didn't quite understand is the way that the female characters and specifically perform desirability verbally.
Yeah. In the early seasons, there was much more like, I'm a this is my job. I'm the full package. Why, like they were much more, hey, I'm bringing something. What are you going to bring?
Yep.
And over time, it has become a little bit more like, well, don't worry. It's almost like they're saying, don't worry, I'm not a feminist. They're not saying that. But there's a little bit of like, don't worry, I'm not going to outshine you or emasculate you.
Yeah.
I want to keep my job and degrees at home. And I may actually financially completely overshadow you, but I'll do the dishes.
Yes. It's this incredible defanging.
Yeah. And it doesn't stick.
Let's do our last question because
Sure.
It's going to bring us full circle and just perfectly bring everything together. This comes from Anne.
I watched the first season of Love is Blind, like everyone else, in the early days of COVID. It felt interesting, maybe even important, though in retrospect, the metaphor is a little on the nose. We're all in pods. There was a moment during COVID where it felt like some things might really change. We might learn from this, shift some big things, ultimately come out better than before. How does the shitification of Love is Blind, epitomized in the most recent season, help us to understand the ways we refuse to grow or change in the wake of COVID, but went backwards instead?
Girl, she said it all. She said it
right?
all. Yeah. But that's what I meant by the Obama generation. Like that first season had it felt kind of lofty. It felt like you were hearing people, as you said, reconcile or reckon with ideas about what it means to be in a relationship, gender roles, things like that. And then in the end, the crowning glory couple is an interracial couple of kind of normies. Like now they probably look as glamorous as everyone else, but they were kind of regular people you could root for. And even their conversation around race was eye-openly straightforward. It was meet my parents. They are nice. You meet my parents. They are nice. It wasn't as big a drama even as the show tried to make it one. It was two middle-class people dating.
Yep.
And then the show never reached those heights again, period. And I think to get to what your listener is saying, I actually, maybe they're right. Maybe it actually had more to do with pandemic, a show about connection when we wanted to a connection, a show where we were on other sides of walls from each other, a show where they did more effectively convey the idea of boundary crossing, of friendships that crossed boundaries for real. Because the other lovely thing about the show, which all reality shows have when they work, is the people in the competition actually kind of like each other. They become a friend group because they've been in this weird battle-tested scenario. All the girls in the house and all the guys in their house like each other. And so it did feel a little more even the catfights were kind of self-contained, right? It was not everybody's fighting with each other like a Jersey Shore situation. It's here and there are little things, but fundamentally these people are nice and fundamentally you kind of like them.
Yeah.
And to her point about enshittification, which I guess is going to enter the mainstream, I'll be saying it on CNN one day. you know, that's where we are, where these kind of AI-like people, like there's not going to be a reason not to watch an AI version of Love is Blind.
Yeah.
Because the people perform in ways that at this point are so eye-opening. They're so predictable. Like, oh, you're all going to go to a mixer and the girl who you thought was hot actually was hot, and now you're just going to stare at her in a bikini for 10 minutes. Like, ChatGPT can make that show for me.
Or, oh, we're all going to go and meet one another for the first time. Like, all the couples are going to meet each other, and it's like 2 p.m. in a tropical location, and there's unlimited booze. I wonder what's going to happen.
Yeah, I don't think it's an accident that Netflix on the app has a rail with like games, like actual little cartoonish looking games of all of these reality shows.
Yeah.
You can play, you know, Perfect Match. You can play Love is like you can actually play act. And if you, the physicality, the Instagram look is a 2-dimensional look.
Yep.
And so seeing a cartoon version of that, a kind of anime version of that, honestly, is not a stretch.
Right. And I will say one thing we didn't explore in the episode, but that could be an entire separate episode, is that when this has been replicated in different cultural contexts, it works differently.
Does it, or do we just not recognize the cultural tropes at play?
Oh no, there's certainly those tropes working, but the American ones are not pronounced. It would be a fascinating study, for example, to do this podcast as Swedish people talking about the Swedish version of Love is Blind.
Yeah, for sure. I watched the UK. There were some others I watched, and then after a while I was like, I can't tell what a fuckboy is in Japan. Like I can't see I can't see the warning signs. And so the sense of dread and suspense that is built through watching the show over the episodes, it wasn't there because I couldn't tell until the last minute that this guy in Brazil wasn't who he was saying he was.
And to your point, ChatGPT could just take inputs from Japan or take inputs from the UK and just like slightly tinker with it and create this.
Yeah, although I did try Love is Blind Habibi because I was like, is this allowed? Like, what are we doing here?
Well, it's like
culturally, are you guys supposed to be doing this? Like, it was strange.
What was your take on it?
My take was that it was fascinating to watch other cultures dating. Like that was cool, you know, and that element of it was cool. And maybe that's why the international ones have arrived at their own kind of appeal, because it's us getting to do what we had hoped the show would do in the first place, which is have us step out of our own skins and try and see things from a different perspective.
So this is the advice we'll give. If you watched the last season and were like, I can't do this anymore, give the first season of other countries a try.
Yeah, or give the first season of the U.S. show a try. It's not like watching a reality show where you're like, everybody's clothes look weird. Like, it's fairly recent, and it's airtight. There's no real politics to it. And so it's a bottle season, a bottle episode in a way, and it is engaging.
Who is your favorite couple and or your favorite season?
I mean, obviously one, I've talked about that a lot. So Cameron and Lauren, okay, they're the Obama couple. Yeah. Then later on, there's a couple in the later episodes. I don't bother learning anyone's name, but this woman is like this sort of like wealthy, hot girl from this big Israeli family. And the guy she pairs with is this like Texas dude and his family. And they're very sort of, what's the word? I think the only word I can say is sort of sexy. Like they like talking about sex. They're very attracted to each other, but they have these like cultural differences and class differences. And they were like engaging to watch. It was just like, this is amusing me. Yeah. But I'd actually like to make a different recommendation for people. There's another show you could watch if you want to have some of the same energy, more chaos, but actually more emotional intelligence. And that is The Ultimatum. Specifically, the LGBT one. You have to watch the one with lesbians because they know how to have a conversation and know about emotional intelligence and awareness. And even as they make mistakes, and they do make those same kinds of mistakes, they're far more engaging to watch in terms of how they work them out, how they don't, their backgrounds. It disrupts your brain circuitry around gender roles and how things are supposed to play out. Yep. But it's just as chaotic and messy. And so that is actually my other recommendation these days. Is like, I don't actually tell people to watch Love is Blind. I'm like, you need to watch The Ultimatum, and it needs to be queer love.
Well, now I know what I'm watching for Dahlia Dividing today.
Audie,
Oh, hell yeah. This has been such a delight.
Have I won you over to it?
I'm going to watch The Ultimatum. I'm not going to watch the next season of Love is Blind.
Right. You're going to thank me. That show is the bomb.
Where can people find you if they want to find more of you, especially your podcast?
You can find me wherever you get your podcast. Now, I have a podcast called The Assignment, which is kind of a show like yours. There's just like a little bit more news. We usually talk to people who are kind of in the center of a news story, right? Like people who know it from the heart of it. And I do the morning show for CNN, which is called CNN This Morning, which, if you don't want to wake up early, is also a podcast. And we actually have a lot of listeners to this hour-long TV show where we kind of hash out the news of the day, straight politics and hard news, and it's a great way to catch up.
That's because people love hearing you at any time of day, but especially the morning.
Well, what I try and do is they cross-pollinate. Mm-hmm. So The Assignment sometimes has newsier episodes than you might expect, and the TV show, sometimes I trick them into having in-depth conversations about things they don't think are going to be very important, but actually are, which is also what I love about culture study. I think you're very good at identifying, and you always were in your writing, like, what are we really talking about when we talk about X? And that's kind of my favorite kind of show to listen to as a podcast. I don't actually just love like hang shows or chat guy or comedian hangouts and stuff like that. It's like meaningless to me. But I love a person who helps me by the end of it understand why what I thought I knew was not what I thought I knew.
Same.
It is the text of our time. All of these stories are the below decks and the above decks and the housewives, and they're all us telling some stories to each other and trying to work them out. Right. And when these things fall out of favor, that's a message. When new things come in favor, that's a message. And for someone who grew up with soap operas,
exactly,
I still, in a way, am still watching soap operas. You know, I'm still watching General Hospital, and that I'm still watching super long running stories with characters you know and who make mistakes and who fall in love and all this stuff. The DNA of that stuff is still there because fundamentally we still like watching ourselves.
Exactly. All right. This has been such a pleasure. Thank you.
I love it. Please invite me back. I love this show so much.
We will. Melody, we need to do the intro really quickly. It's like 2 lines.
Is the intro like, Audie Cornish is amazing. And since she's been on television, her ego has not grown in any way. She's a humble gal who brings a kind of richness of intellect to every conversation she's in. Well, signed Audie Cornish.
I'm sure I'm sure you like now no longer getting those emails that are like, oh my God, now I know what you look like. Amazing.
I don't get those anymore. I don't get those anymore, which has been a real boon to the Black community, let me tell you. Because now it's much more like it's so good to see you there rather than I didn't know you were there.
Yeah.
And that has its own
There's always the subtext
richness.
of like, I didn't know that you were Black. Wow.
Yeah. It's like, very revealing. It's like, now I know what you think Blackness is.
I know.
But I also am trying to find the provolone. So why don't we continue this conversation in another aisle in another time?
We won't put that in. Although
you can put that in.
That can be the little blooper reel at the end.
These aren't bloopers. This is actually how I talk.
Thanks for listening to the Culture Study Podcast. Be sure to subscribe wherever you get your podcasts because we have so many great episodes in the works, and I promise you don't want to miss any of them. Some of the episodes we're working on include one on contemporary dating culture, what we're talking about when we talk about eldest daughters and eldest daughter syndrome, the rise of criminal profiling and like some of the problems with it, and the sociology of names. Basically, like, what does a name mean? I can't wait to hear your questions for all of these, and you can submit those questions along with questions for the subscriber-only Ask Ann Anything segment at tinyurl.com/culturestudypod or check the show notes for a link. And if you want to support the show and get bonus content, head to patreon.com/culturestudy. It's $5 a month or $50 a year, and you'll get ad-free episodes, an exclusive Advice Time segment, and weekly discussion threads for each episode. The Culture Study podcast is produced by me, Anne Helen Peterson, and Melody Rowell. Our music is by Poddington Bear. You can find me on Instagram at Anne Helen Peterson, Melody at Melodious47, and the show at Culture Study Pod.